But I want to just begin by thanking everybody. I wish everybody well, and I hope that your communities and your families and your friends are all doing well and managing through a pretty tumultuous time for all of us in many aspects of our lives. In adult education and literacy, we're doing really well in terms of keeping the trains running. I appreciate the work of my staff and TCall and the other folks that have just really helped us transition very seamlessly. I've talked to other states and some local institutions, and they've had a lot of challenges, frankly, getting this done. So somehow, between the work of my team and the work of TCall and then all the providers, we have just been pretty much going into a remote space seamlessly, and that's everybody needs to pat themselves on the back for that. Challenges are out there, I know, and we're trying to help you out with those. But I see every day, and we were talking right before we started here on Twitter and LinkedIn, you guys posting the successes of your students. Keep that stuff coming, because the more we stay connected as a system and as a community, the easier things will be. And you learn a lot. I've learned so much about what you guys are doing locally and how you've gotten so creative. And it's very empowering, I think. I like a lot of the stories and the videos of really low-level ESL students that are contributing and learning how to buy Lysol and cleaners online. And these things are being shared on Twitter, and it's inspiring for other students to see that too. So keep that in mind, because sometimes they think they can't do this, when in fact a lot of people are doing it, and the guidance from instructors out there that are doing this work has really been fantastic. So we have a lot on the agenda here, and I appreciate the feedback that you guys have been giving us with questions. And this will be like the last couple of weeks, another busy one coming up. In terms of new guidance coming out. So look forward to that. I'm going to go through quite a bit of that. But I want to begin with a general update from the agency, just real briefly. One thing, you'll see it on the news, and you'll see it in the newspapers and nationally, but the unemployment insurance situation across America and across the world is reaching some just incredible proportions, and Texas is being very challenged right now in terms of processing, but we have really gotten the assets together in terms of standing up several new call centers. We have several hundred TWC staff, including almost half of my team, that are doing unemployment insurance work, full-time or part-time, and that's lending a hand to kind of get to the calls from individuals. So if people in your family or your friends or students are having trouble, bear with us. Know that we have expert hands and really good people working on this, but the onslaught of capacity has been just amazing. We surpassed the number of claims over the last 3 weeks were more than the whole year of 2019 together. And we have days where there's hundreds of thousands, up to millions of calls coming in and input to the web system. So bear with us, and we're going to have a lot of capacity coming on in the next couple of weeks as the new call centers come up and get stood up, as staff get trained. And I want to thank my team for taking the time to do what they're doing, because we got a busy world in adult ed, and they're still finding some times, filling in some precious Saturday slots where we're finding some shortages of people. So appreciate it, and a little update from us, and I want to thank my team for that. So let me get into item B here on the agenda. We're going to set up some specialized phone calls, and I'll send an email about this later today. But I want to do a phone call on rural area access, and just get a sense of these phone calls are really intended to allow each of you out there to peer network and share best practices. It's not about me giving you a bunch of guidance or anything like that. So we're going to put one together for rural access. I'll send out an email, and we'll include whoever would like to be included. But I want to learn myself, but I'd like to hear how others can help each other out with getting not only to the students in rural areas, but what kind of challenges with equipment and Wi-Fi and those kind of things you're experiencing, just so we can learn more at the agency and help you more, and that you guys can peer network and help each others. And then I'm going to put another call together that will be the leads of our consortia, because I think the consortia, they're operating, a system within a system. And some of our consortia, like in Houston and Dallas, San Antonio, they're very large. And I thought bringing the leads of those consortia together to talk about best practices would also be a good idea amongst themselves. What's working in Houston might be something they haven't explored in El Paso or in Literacy Council of Tyler or where have you. So I thought that would be a good hour or so to share just best practices with each other. So we want to make that available to you. We'll work with T-Call, or we'll do it through Teams, and we'll find a way to make that available and let you share your best practices.
Hanson?
Yes.
There is a question from Armando.
Okay.
Will a high volume of people logging in, are we going to be experiencing problems logging in for Teams? Do you think it'll be unavailable at times?
The last I heard on Teams, and Elena can chime in if I'm wrong, but it has a 250 person access. And we have gone over that limit with no challenges.
Hanson, I think he means big teams.
Oh, big teams. Armando, do you mean our data management system?
The data management system, yeah, sorry. That's what he means.
We haven't run into anything. Mahalia, is there anything you'd like to share about that capacity? She may not be.
Well, I can share that in the chat pod. Some folks said they're already having issues. Tiffany Johnson, we haven't had access for days. I ran into problems a couple of minutes ago. We have not been able to access. It seems like it might be an issue.
Okay, yeah, that's actually the first I'm hearing of it. Let me see if Mahalia or someone else that might be able to join in can get us a response to that soon. But it could be a wide variety of issues, just general internet traffic. Teams doesn't tie into any of our other systems at TWC. We do have some interconnected systems, but Teams is not one of them. It's web-based, and so it could be web traffic. I don't know. I have never heard that we have limits on access.
So somebody,
Anson? Hi, Anson. This is Blanca Saldivar. I do want to let you know we are having problems with Teams due to the overload with the UI system. So yes, we are bogged down, and so that makes the application been running pretty slow. So we ask everyone to just be patient with us. We'll get it.
No.
Kelsey, Region 20 says that she talked to the team's technical assistants, and they let her know that it keeps crashing because sharing the server with the UI.
I don't know about that. Is that?
Yes, that's correct, Anson.
Oh, does it? Okay, well, there you go. I didn't know we had a shared server with UI. I thought it was only our Cedar system that did that. Well, I apologize for that. The guidance we've been giving on those system access limitations has been doing stuff at different hours of the day, late at night or early in the morning. I don't know if that will alleviate things, but yeah, I am really sorry about that. I had no idea. And how do I view the chat on here real quick, Deb? Could you show me?
Sure. Where you're up where it says you're sharing your screen, you should be able to hit the more button and then push chat, and it'll pop up.
Yeah, I'm not getting it when I do that for some reason.
Are you sure it's not behind another screen somewhere on your monitor?
It could be. Okay, we'll proceed.
Well, you can stop sharing and see if you find it, and then you could share again. Or I could share.
Right.
Okay.
We'll move on. Back, I appreciate hearing about the team systems updates. And Blanca, thank you for that response. I would try after hours, and we're going to add. Let's add this to the FAQ document if there are some best practices. So, Elena, if you can write that down, or Maria, we'll put that into the FAQ document because we definitely want to help you out with that and keep the data coming in. Thank you, Armando, for sending that in. So we have some surveys coming out. I'm on item C. There'll be a survey hopefully out today, one or two of them. One of them is a general survey kind of for us to judge the status of how we're doing out there in terms of your perspectives on accessing students, things that you need, and some specific questions that our agency leadership is wanting to better understand. We update our leadership almost daily, and your feedback on those surveys has been instrumental in helping us make some decisions. So we try to keep them short. This next one you can probably do in 4 or 5 minutes. That would really help us out. We also have another one that Ann Savino developed on IET. And we have not talked much about IET on our phone calls or in our guidance because we've been trying to deal with so many of the other things that take a little bit of a priority. But the IET survey is going to help inform some of the answers to questions because I know a lot of you have questions related to IET. I know a lot of training has been shut down because of it requires so much hands-on work. So I'm going to get that information out to you guys too because I think learning more about the IET and how to keep those students engaged. The message I'll tell you right now that our guidance is going to say is find ways to keep them engaged. I don't want anybody to think, well, if I can't run my program concurrently, I can't do it. Because we have a lot of guidance that says you can't do that. But we're going to have to find some flexibility. And we'll put this in print in our FAQ. But I don't want anybody to say, well, classes are canceled until we can open the campus. If you can do remote basic education, remote high school equivalency prep, if you can talk about job search, talk about employability skills, find ways to keep the students engaged because we'll come back up soon and a lot of the training and stuff will probably hopefully start in the summer here, if not sooner. But we'll lose a lot of people if it looks like we're just putting them off. So that's my basic message. We'll put in more technical details as we move forward on IET. But I was very glad that Ann put that together, and we'll learn a lot more from the survey. So take some time. I know you're super busy, and it seems like a survey's not something you have on your time to do, but we're trying to keep them short. It does really help us out, though, with the guidance. Let me move over to the TCAL webpage now and kind of get us some updates here on what that looks like. Okay. So as you guys know, this is our go-to resource for where we're trying to post information. Jorge over there at TCAL and Deb and the team have done a great job of getting this up and keeping it fresh, and we really thank them. As you know, there's a section for the providers and there's a section for students. In that student section, we're populating with multilingual fact sheets on COVID-19 in different languages, information on what to do if you're sick, myths about COVID, and then information about their class status. So here, it just clicks on over and it goes over to our standard provider directory search. And my message to you is if you have a website for your program, make sure you're updating that because we're telling students to go there to find out what the latest is on updates to your program, when things are going to open, how to access a teacher, that kind of information. We also have links to our major testing sites in terms of test center openings. And we are learning day by day what the status of those are. And our friends at TEA, Cindy Tonneson and others, are keeping a close eye on that as well as us. So we will let you know with a ticker tape parade if we hear about high school equivalency testing opening, because I know everybody is really waiting for that to happen. Information on unemployment insurance, including information in Spanish. So please implore your teachers to go online and look for to help ask students about unemployment and if they need assistance, and point them to this page. What I've done here is try to provide the most essential information. There's a lot of stuff on our website, but we have stuff there and we have it in Spanish. Because your students aren't going to stick around if they are busy trying to find a job and don't know they can access unemployment. Plus, the world of unemployment insurance is evolving as some of the regulations and stipulations are being relaxed to deal with the emergency. And then we've got information on school lunches and those types of things. Please implore your instructors to remind parents, if they don't know, I'm sure the parents typically do know, that most public schools that I have heard are providing free lunch, breakfast, and I heard today even dinner for parents and students. Many of the schools are not requiring students be present. So if you want to drive up there without your students in the car, that's fine. I'm going to get off this phone call and go do that with my son because he likes going up there, and we get it's open to everybody. You don't have to be on free and reduced lunch. And I wanted to remind people today, our school is providing the food today as well as food tomorrow, since Good Friday is a very recognized holiday in the schools. So you can sometimes tell your students there's a double win on the free and reduced lunch handouts that are happening in front of schools. So that's a good one for parents. So check this information out and make sure students get this information is my main message to you. If we go to the provider page, this is, as I said, where we're going to be hosting everything forthcoming. So if you see it come through on an email, you're most likely going to see it show up on this webpage either before or after my email, because we're trying to make this a go-to one-stop place. We've added quick links here. We have the latest FAQ, which I'm going to talk more about in a minute, as well as hot items on the COVID-19 and distance education and stuff. Something new that we added today is the virtual testing guidance chart. And I'm going to pull this up. This is something we're working on right now, but a lot of questions have come up on virtual testing. And I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit, but we're going to keep this chart up on the website also. And it's going to be updated daily up until these test vendors all go online. But I'm going to talk more about that in the agenda in a little bit. So that's the website. If you see stuff or know stuff that you think is very attractive, please send it over to us at our email address, AELTA, this one over here, right there. I'm going to highlight it. That's our go-to website. Maria Morrow manages that for us for emails, and questions should go there, not to any of the other website email addresses, so we can kind of keep the questions together or best tips. I also wanted to say, if you have an urgent issue or something you want to share with me, I'm available. You can text me, which is usually best, or email me, and I'll be sure, and I'm very excited to get that information from you guys, because you guys have been sharing a lot of really in-time, up-to-date stuff. And as I said, I'm sharing stuff straight up to our leadership, and it's important for us to kind of keep abreast of what's happening in the local areas as much as possible.
Anson?
Yes.
Kathy Dowdy was asking if we could put a link to the COVID page on our front page. Can you go to our regular T-Call page? You'll see, Kathy and everyone, that it's that blue banner thing that's in the middle. So if you just, right there, if you'll click there, Anson.
Yeah, right here, yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
No, please.
Oh yeah. So when you come here, anytime you go to, this is the TCall website. We've put the COVID page right here. So it appears immediately as soon as you go to the page. So if you are buried down elsewhere, say you're in here and you're learning all about the strategic plan, and you want to go back to the COVID information, the thing to do, you see here, I have a hot link that goes back to the T-call. It's going to take you right back to that page. And we've kind of made that very prominent on the page. So also, if you want to link this to your own websites or link the student page to your website, of course, you're open to do that. We have no stipulations about doing that. Okay.
And we do have some other comments and questions if you're willing. Okay. Michelle Lamons from Amarillo asked, I'm looking for it now. I've copied and pasted these. Give me just a moment. Can TWC provide access to an interpreter call center for students and provider? One issue has been the language barrier via phone conversations.
Let me look. I mean, I can look into that. We, I know as an agency, have a call center access for interpretation for our UI system. Because we get calls for unemployment insurance from a wide variety of languages. I think it would be probably not on the table right now to ask that system, since UI is getting really inundated right now, to borrow their language system services. But let me see what else might lie out there. So you're getting calls from the general public, I'm assuming, Michelle, related to in other languages, and no one on staff can answer those calls. Very difficult place to be. I've been there myself. Let us look into that, and we'll put that on the FAQ if there's any resource. And I'll search around, because I know there are sometimes organizations that will provide that kind of services. Typically, I've seen it happen when there's a refugee influx that comes into town, and a local Catholic Charities type organization or something makes language interpreters accessible via the telephone. I've seen that before. In other situations, I don't know if anything like that is currently accessible. Very good question, though, and a big constraint. The best thing I would immediately tell you to do is everybody that, since we're all not working in an office, sometimes this is hard to do. But if I was a director, what I would do immediately is send a questionnaire out to my team, including instructors, and develop a call list of who has second language ability in what languages. Because you may not know that off the top of your head, but there could be an ESL teacher that's very fluent in another language, or 3 languages, or 2 languages, whatever, and you don't know that because it's never come up. But that would be my first response to that. We see that happen in hospitals, where they have people that come into the ER and they speak unique languages that aren't represented well in the community. Hospitals, I know, use call logs to see who on staff at any given time, whether they're a cafeteria worker or a nurse or a doctor, has a second language that could be useful in the ER. We're kind of in the same situation where it'd be nice to know of your team. Like right now, as I speak to you, I don't know on my team who, besides Spanish bilingual, I have on my team. I could have some other languages represented. I don't know, because I haven't asked the question. So that's probably a best practice that you might want to exercise, since you guys have big staffs. And ESL teachers face this all the time, so they may have some other tricks that and other resources to help out with. Great question, Michelle. Any other questions?
Yes, sir. And thank you to Liz and Beth for finding these and keep posting them, because they're going through so quickly. Ashley was just mentioning it's been a couple of years, but 211 used to be able to provide that service for free.
Yep.
So to look into that. Kathy Dowdy, I'm not really sure what you're asking. TCall has a great resource page, but would like to improve information for ACC. Who should I reach out to?
Kathy Dowdy, just send a question to the AELTA mailbox, and we'll address it. Or you can send it to me. Any other questions?
From Joe, regarding language translations, check with local colleges or universities. They often have departments that can assist you. Usually not on demand, but they are scheduled. Those of Ann Savino, those of you working with Tyson, they had some staff available who did translation during recruitment for those AEL workplace literacy classes. Just another resource to consider. Tiffany Johnson, reach out to some of the university international students that probably could use some small part-time work at this point.
Excellent.
From Denise Purdue, our testing center opened to receive GED students as a priority. GED.com is not allowing testing of students.
Yeah, I have not heard that they are. Does anybody have an update on that? It's interesting your testing center would be receiving students. They may be receiving reservations or something, but appointments. Okay.
No one's replying. And one last one, Brenda. One of our ESL classes called the COVID hotline during class. They asked permission and then let the students ask their questions with the bilingual staff present.
Oh.
This wouldn't work with UI, but a great idea.
Yeah.
And open emergency centers. And Denise says, no, they're accepting 20 students per day. That's interesting.
But they're probably not testing them. I haven't heard that the testing centers are open.
Yeah, Leslie Hayes, ours is not open.
Yeah, that would be I think I would have learned that, but maybe not. There's so much happening right now. I heard it was going to be May before they were thinking that testing would be open on the GED, last I heard.
That's what some folks are saying in the chat pod.
Yeah. I saw something else in here that I wanted to respond to. Oh, no, it's an idea. So there's another idea that somebody just posited about having unique languages for interpretation. Classes are full of students that speak those languages, ESL classes, and some of those students are going to be bilingual now because we've taught them English. That's another resource to gather logs of bilingualism within the classes. And then see if students would like to volunteer and work as and offer their time for questions. Because the calls, if you can record a voicemail of a student in another language, that's how I often pick them up. You could send that over to somebody that was bilingual, and they could hopefully get back to the individual. It's a big constraint, though, but I think we've got some options there with just the people within our programs and some of our students as maybe a resource. All right, let's move on. Real quickly on the deliverables, we've had a lot of questions on deliverables, and we have an update at the bottom of this page, but we're going to also prominently post the deliverable due dates and the postponed due dates, which is largely what we're dealing with right now. So I want to have a single resource for that. We'll put it on the TCall site, and that way my team, the providers, our board grant staff, board and AEL grant staff can go to one place. So if we do make adjustments, we will be able to kind of update you on that. But we are still waiting on the data sign-off date because we're just kind of postponing that until we feel like we have a date that we can do that at. And we're coordinating that information with Adam Leonard in our performance area. Let me talk about the FAQ a little bit. I've been promising an update to the FAQ. The one on the website is from the 25th, I believe, so it feels like it's just woefully out of date. And I think we're going to have an FAQ update by tomorrow morning. We have been focusing this week largely on the guidance related to serving new students at a distance. And that's consumed a lot of energy and creativity to help us work on that. That's going to entail a guidance document, which we've sent out and people have given comments on, about 10 pages of questions related to serving students at a distance. These are questions related to performance. They're questions related to PII. They're questions related to getting information for 16 to 18-year-olds, documentation, those types of questions. So we've really spent some time to give you the best updates we can, and a lot of latitude. I think there's a lot. You're going to read this, and I think you're going to say, man, we can do this. We're trying not to put a lot of constraints on you. The other thing that's going to be introduced, hopefully tomorrow morning we'll get this out, will be the tracker. So if you're new to this phone call, haven't been on some of the calls, Christine Long that works with my team, a wonderful individual that's just helped us out tremendously on developing a tracker for new students that are coming in. And the reason we need a tracker is you can't enroll a student, of course, until they have a test. And we have big constraints with testing on the assessment guide approved assessments and tests. So we're going to have a side system through an Excel tracker that, and we have got a lot of guidance based around using that. But look forward to that. Tomorrow when this comes out, the leads in your grants and your consortia and your data people will want to powwow for quite a bit of time to come up with a procedure, because you need a procedure that you can use to effectively kind of implement this across the system, because you're now at an instructor level where students are coming in, and that's a lot of inputs. And so we want you to be able to standardize as much as possible the processes. But look for that to come in. It's going to be added to the FAQ general document. So there's only going to be one FAQ. I had played with the idea of doing two, but I thought that's a bad idea. So we have a FAQ that's going to be probably up to 40 pages long now. It's going to also have a lot of new questions on loaning laptops and things like that. So we're taking your questions, getting responses from our fiscal technical assistance department, finance, performance, board, and adult education and literacy grants. Everybody's contributing to these answers. And it's going to be very rich, this next round of FAQs. So look forward to that. We will, Elena on my team is working with me to take a large document like that and make it easy to access questions. So we're going to have hyperlinks within it that go to sections, and we're going to number these questions in a way that will allow you to find them quickly. And they will still have the date. So some questions go back to like March 18th, and then some questions will be dated, April 10th. That way you'll know what's new and what's old. So look forward to that. If you have questions, please send them in, because that's our best way to address. But just about every corner of what we're doing is getting turned sideways a little bit, and we want to help you with answers. That being said, we also are getting feedback from the federal government on answers to questions we have, and so we're going to be using that to inform our document also. Any questions that have come in yet?
Nope.
Okay, I see Sharon. Sharon's email from Dallas. So she's asking about the tracker, and will it be sent to just the grant recipients or to the providers? And what we're going to do is provide this just to the grant recipients and allow them to develop processes, because everybody likes to do that uniquely. And I don't want everybody out there to get this tracker and then develop their own unique little process. We're at a time where we need a little bit of command and control structure to make sure that there is a standardization. I talked to a provider yesterday of a very large system, and they haven't gone big yet. They haven't really started serving a lot of students. I actually talked to 2 providers like this, very large systems. And the reason is their big, large systems are taking time to standardize and come up with one utility to use for remote education and things like that. So we want the same thing to happen when it comes to the information on data, because data is very important. We're going into a very unique period, and I want our data experts at each of the consortia and the providers to be the first to kind of look at this, analyze it, and come up with a standard operating procedure for their consortia. So thank you for that question, Sharon.
We do have questions now.
I see another one. No updates on CASAs and TAPE testing as of
Correct.
hearing. I saw that one from David. Thank you, David.
Irene Ramos.
Irene Ramos said, I assume you want all updated SOPs that are aligned to TWC standards submitted to AEO contracts. Yes, that's going to be part of the deliverables updates that we'll have, and we'll in there about. Let me write that down. Specific pandemic related. So I would like to. We need to collect those and standardize. And I know that's something. I mean, you're feeling like you're putting out a fire, but take the time to standardize. I've told several people. I've been through some of these situations like this before where we're dealing with a crisis and your first reaction is to move fast, but it's often better to take a little bit of extra time and standardize and simplify, because one day, hopefully soon, we'll have to reconcile all of this information. And it's easier to reconcile 2 or 3 processes than it is to reconcile 17 or 18 different processes that were independently developed by different people. So if you're a grantee lead, the SOP might not seem like the first thing on your plate to do, but I'm advising you to do that, because when the doors open up again, we're going to have to kind of make sense of what's been happening, and it could be very difficult if we don't have that standardization. Any other questions?
Yes. Todd's asking any guidance on updated SOPs, best practices, shared ideas.
That's a great question, Todd. I think what we can do is, as we find SOPs as they come in, I don't think it's out of the question to share those, because I think we do need to be learning from each other, and there's going to be a lot of things that will be easy to standardize. Okay, and Chris is saying it'd be great to have a conference call on SOPs, I'm assuming. Is that Chris?
Correct.
Okay, we're going to add that on there because I think it's a great idea, Chris. Thank you. We don't have a standardized SOP template out there. I see Marcia Ellis asking that question. Okay, well, good questions out there, but I think to get to Marcia's question, on these pandemic-related SOPs, I think we'll see some things that we could be standardizing, so appreciate the feedback. Thank you, guys.
There was one question, Anson.
Yeah.
Is there any way to enroll new students without it? David, I'm trying to go back to see what was that in regards to. Can you?
Deb, he's
Yes.
wanting to know if there's a way to test without the
What do you want?
enroll without the testing, which is what Anson was covering with the new student enrollment tracker, and is also answered in the FAQ document.
So remind me what the question was, Lori?
He's asking if there's a way to enroll students without the testing.
Yes, that's what we're going to be providing out there tomorrow. Will be guidance on how to enroll individuals into the program and begin to serve them, even information on performance related to those students, because we want to keep the trains running. Individuals are becoming unemployed at a very high rate. Many high schoolers are not wanting to do distance learning to finish high school, or they don't have access to distance learning opportunities, and they're choosing to leave school and just get on with their lives because they were a senior and now their world's been turned upside down. And we want to be able to provide access to our program and then to the high school equivalency testing when that becomes available, for sure. So Denise Johnson asked, on tomorrow we'll receive 3 documents. Yes. And now I'm committing to it. So I got to get to work on these things to clean them up. But I'm fine with that. We got to turn this around for you. One will be guidance on serving new students at a distance, several pages long. The second will be an FAQ that gets into really granular areas of serving students at a distance, about 9 or 10 pages of questions. And Mahalia has been working on those for the last 2 days. I did it over the weekend. And then the tracker document that Christine Long built for us, which is a Excel, a very dynamic Excel spreadsheet that will allow you to enter the information for students that you're not able to put into Teams. One thing I'll say right now to keep in your mind, once you can test remotely, then you'll be able to put them in Teams, and we'll transition out of this phase. So there's going to be, we're kind of in this messy period of transitioning from brick and mortar classes to remote and distance learning. Well, we're going to enter an equally messy period where we go from remote and distance learning only back into brick and mortar services or to remote testing services. And that will kind of follow a trajectory of using Teams, using the tracker, and then going back to Teams. So we're kind of forecasting the day when testing will become available, and I'm going to speak to that in just a second here. But yeah, think about that cycle as you think of things. But back to Denise's question, also that tracker, the guidance document is going to go to everybody. The tracker is only going to go to the consortia leads. So we want to make the information available on serving students at a distance available, but then the tracker itself is just going to go to the leads that are going to work on the standard operating procedures they need at the consortia level to work on that. And if you're a consortia lead on the call, I'd probably suggest you do that in concert with your sub-grantees, because everybody's got good ideas right now, and this is a time when we need a lot of democratic thinking, I think, for sure. Okay, so moving on, I appreciate the feedback, and I'll stop for more questions in a second. I'm going to turn it over to Fabiana, who's going to talk about our rules process. We have some rule updates. These are our guidance rules that the commission approves, and they're out for public comment. So Fabiana, if you want to unmute, if you're able, and hit the talk about the public comment period on that, I'd appreciate it.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can I get confirmation that everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. And if you hear a toy store in the back or some toddler noises, that's my toddler juggling a couple of things. I hope everyone's doing safe and well. So quick update from last week's call. We let you all know that we have posted the policy concept for the Chapter 800 and Chapter 805 rules. And last week I gave you kind of a quick overview of what that process looks like. So an update is tomorrow in the Texas Register, there is going to be a notice in which our policy concept, which outlines the proposed rule changes that we as an agency are hoping to implement, will be posted, and we'll have a 30-day comment period. So you and your programs can go in, review how we intend to implement again, this is the House Bill 3, the High School Equivalency Subsidy Program, and the House Bill 1949, which for us we know as the performance-based funding criteria. So it's really to address those two bills which were passed this session, legislative session. And I think for all of us, we would love to hear your feedback on the House Bill 3 High School Equivalency Subsidy Program. So I believe last week, most of you received a Gov delivery notice from TWC that said, here is the policy concept. And if you remember last week, Deb shared the screen. And so when you looked at that 2 to 3 page document, there is underlined text throughout. And that underlined text is what would appear in the rule language if we move through this process and leave the language as is. So one update is that, yes, this will go in the Texas Register starting tomorrow for a 30-day comment period. So you'll get an email on that. I think to make things a little easier for y'all, because we're sending so many communications out, is we will post this maybe somewhere on the TCall website, either at the top or at the very bottom of that AEL provider page where we have information on the high school equivalency testing centers for GED and HiSET. That might be a more appropriate place to look for that. In any case, we'll let you know and kind of make all that information central. So if you lose that email, which I know we're all getting a lot of it, you can go to the TCall page. One thing about this process is that as we get comments from programs, so we're not just sending it to you all, to our AEL providers, this will also go out to our boards, to the general public. What our policy team is doing here is they are receiving all those comments, and each week, I think on Friday, they will send us an email saying, here are all the comments we've received this week. So far, we've received one comment from a program, a really good, which gave us really good feedback. At the end of the day, some of those comments may or may not impact how we change our rule language, but it certainly will help us give us AEL more information on how we might tweak the process, because we know this is going to impact you all in terms of managing how you're getting these high school equivalency subsidies out, especially as we wait for these testing centers to reopen, or hopefully hear from GED or HiSET going to remote options, which, as Anson mentioned, we haven't heard anything yet. We're waiting to get more information on that. So stay tuned. We'll keep all that information posted, like I said, either on the TCall website or somewhere centrally located for you to easily access. With that being said, tomorrow you should get an email from Miss Marla Porter. She works within our agency in our policy section, and she is going to send you some of the comments we've received so far specific to the high school equivalency subsidy. So again, Marla Porter, it's not spam. It's going to be some really good information for you to consider. And that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions, or turn it back to Anson here.
Okay, questions coming in from the chat. I don't see them yet. I would underscore, and this goes into the next item, the high school equivalency subsidy information. There's going to be several times that you can kind of give us feedback on that, but that's such a new world for us to be providing you with this great subsidy to pay for high school equivalency tests that I don't think we're going to pretend to have figured it all out alone. So if you want to consider comments on that, we would really appreciate those, because we are obligated to respond to those, and we really want to get that system correct when we start to administer the vouchers for high school equivalencies. That's going to be a big sea change, I think, for us in adult education. I'm really looking forward to it. I got an update today, thank you, probably from Blanca, on the Teams outages. And it says from Mahalia that this doesn't have anything to do with the Teams application per se. Due to the heavy load on the UI system, the servers are bogged down, and hence other applications are seeing some impact. Steps are being taken to alleviate the issue. So that's what's going on there. And I appreciate somebody bringing that up on the call, Tiffany and others. Very important for us to keep you updated on that. And the UI stuff, of course, it's got to take a precedence for us. Teams can wait. But I know that does frustrate you. But I have heard that the after hours applications work, but I'm sure we're going to be building our capacity to take more traffic on that server quickly, because the UI capacity is the state's one of the state's most important priorities right now. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the next item. Thank you, Fabiana, for funding options. I've been talking about this with some of you for weeks, and with all of you a few times on these calls, but we have been working with other parts of the agency on developing a funding response that our commissioners will vote on to support you with additional funding. We briefed our commission offices yesterday. It's a variety of different programs, not just adult education. We're talking the workforce programs included. And we anticipate next Tuesday they will be voting on these funding options. The commissioners are very thoughtful, and we're trying to be also very creative and thoughtful in what we're guiding them on in terms of feedback on what is needed from you. And that's where the feedback from you has been really important for me, because when someone asks me, do we need more money? And I say yes, the next question is for what? And you have provided me adequate information, I think, to help alleviate those concerns. Most likely, I imagine, just like at the federal level, there'll be one or two waves of funding that goes out depending on demand. So we're making a very strong effort this time around to get things addressed. And then knowing that, also in July, new federal funding will be coming to us, and your grants will be refreshed with additional funding. But we do know there's increased cost happening in ways, largely through the distance and remote upscaling that you've all had to do, but for other reasons also. And the more we learn about those, the more we can help you out. So thank you very much. And I will guide you soon as any documents become publicly available on this, and let you take a look at what's going on, should that come up next week.
There is a question from Tara.
Yes. Okay. Hey, Tara from Wharton. How are you doing?
What is the guidance on tracking or collecting non-synchronized hours, like when students do assignments online?
Okay. Tara, my first response is I think the current FAQ addresses quite a bit of that under the remote and distance learning header. So check that FAQ. I think we're going to be making a few more edits to that, but I think there's some responses in there already on tracking non-synchronized time. And if not, we'll make sure we add that in there. There are more limitations when it's not synchronized, for sure, but we wanted to provide some guidance in there for that. And I see some other questions come in. Susan Sanchez from Paris Junior College. One need of additional funding is consumable curriculum for remote learners because they don't have access to the classroom curriculum sets. So I think we're going to be able to address that in the work that we've been doing with our commissioners. Largely the funding responses have been focused around what it takes to go remote, what it takes to go distance, remote messaging, those types of things. So hopefully we'll get that there.
And then Becky.
And Becky, our district is allowing related purchases at the time, but will allow other purchases if we have written guidance from TWC spending our funds for all other purchases. Can you provide such written guidance? Oh, that's an interesting one. So let's make sure we note that down. Yes, we will get you that information because I could see that happening. Right now, we're getting to the time of year where not only is there all these priorities on local spending for COVID-19, but it's also the time of year when typically budget offices start closing down, in May and June. So what I'm hearing that we need is guidance that says this is COVID related, not a standard purchase of curriculum, for example, and that will help you push it through approvals at your level. I really think that's important. That's important, yeah. But I can see that happening, definitely, because there is a lot of priority being put, special board meetings, special meetings and guidance happening to prioritize and push forward the money there. Appreciate that from Paris Junior College.
Donnie McGowan is asking about the purchase of temporary phones. Is that allowable?
I'm trying to think if we've addressed that or not. I'll have to go back and look. Something that has come up, but we'll go back and look at our on that. That would be probably in a new release, though. We haven't published anything on that yet.
And then Ann Savino is talking about the DL webinar that we're going to do tomorrow. So we'll talk about that in the PD section.
Okay, good.
Denise Aran, that's very important, as we also had hesitation in purchases we needed at our college. Kathy Dowdy, assuming this is coming, but hoping for guidance on remote proctoring and which platforms are allowable or not. Okay.
Yeah, that's gonna, so back to Kathy's question, Denise, I'm glad to see you're interested in that other comment related to, I'm assuming, phones, temporary phones. The comment from Kathy is, we will have, as I mentioned earlier, in the quick links, the latest TWC guidance on remote testing. I think what we'll provide there, and I'm improvising a little bit here, but I want to be responsive, we'll provide guidance from the test publishers there. In terms of a local process on implementing that guidance, I don't know if we'll have guidance from our level on what you can and can't do beyond what the test publisher allows. So, for example, if the test publisher says something, and I'm improvising, but if they said, the test should be proctored in a secure environment, we're going to let Austin Community College, for example, define a secure environment. I don't think we're going to get into the granularity of that level of feedback. But we will be happy to address things if it becomes a constraint for you. So let us know how that goes. But it's a good comment there from Kathy there at Austin Community College. Okay, let's move on here. I think we're moving on to reminders, and this is number 2. And keep your questions. I'm sure you're probably talking around the room with folks. But let's move on with the notices and reminders for the Q3 report. So I'll turn it over to the Board and Adult Education Literacy Grants team. And I'll give up sharing here. Is somebody from BAEL on? I heard Travis was on earlier. And Denise, Deb, would you mind showing the agenda again, please, too, so we can follow along?
Sure. Hold on just a moment.
There's Kara.
There's Kara.
Yeah,
There's Travis.
Okay, so there's been a lot of questions about the when due dates are for certain deliverables. And we've been sending out calendar events to folks so that it can be marked onto your Outlook calendars. If you're missing any of those, please let us, either myself or Ashley Krause, know. and we will be happy to send one out to you. And this is for core providers. We've also started doing that with some of the statewide initiatives that we have going on. This is just a way to help us stay a little more organized. And from what I understand, a lot of grantees have more than one grant with TWC. So it also helps with keeping organized of which grant is due when.
Yeah.
If you have questions about your deliverable due dates, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or to Ashley Krause. Renee, she is still with us, and you can still include her on your emails. However, she's been called away to the unemployment line. So we salute her, and we greatly appreciate her stepping up to do that. Do you all have any questions about this? Go ahead and pop them in the chat pod.
Kara, there's a question. What is the guidance on submitting quarterly subrecipient monitoring reports? We have not accessed the documents required to conduct provider monitoring according to our monitoring plan.
That is a great question, and we will have to take a closer look into that. Would you mind sending an email to AEL Contracts with that question, please? And please reference your grants, because we've got to keep track of, we're going to say over 100 grants, and some of us have more than that. So it's kind of difficult to know which grant specifically we're discussing. No, the quarterly narrative is due on April 30th per the calendar invite that was submitted earlier this month and per what's listed on the calendar agenda.
Mm-hmm. And Kara, I think what we can do is we're gonna, so everybody, I'm glad you're having these deliverable questions. We'll consolidate these. They've sent those meeting reminders, and that's very useful. Thank you, guys. We'll consolidate all the deliverables and the status of them, including the data sign-offs, in one place on the TCAL website. So you'll have an at a glance, because sometimes that's useful, because the last thing right now people are thinking about is probably doing that quarterly report or something. They're dealing with 200 students that are waiting to get remote learning. So I want to make it defined also all in one place. So we'll coordinate the AEL team, Kara and Travis and Renee and Ashley, and we'll make sure that we kind of get those prominently placed on the TCAL website. And good question, Eduardo.
I believe that's it for questions.
Okay. Super. Thank you, Kara and Travis and others. And I'm glad to see. So I'm assuming Renee is not in the unemployment line. Renee is serving the unemployment. That's good to hear. It's good that we're all being able to get in there and work on that.
Right. She's got, she'll be there until further notice, Anson. So,
okay.
So I've got 3 of my staff that are contributing to UI, and they're doing some really great work. And I also want to let you all know that UI hours will be going, we'll be extending those hours beyond Easter, where they'll be open 7 days a week, extended hours available. And so from what we heard yesterday from the UI division director, so
yep.
And we should have over 2,000 people, take the UI claims, pretty within the next week or so.
Yep. Thank you, Travis. Good feedback, and thanks for loaning your team out. It's going to put some heavy weight on those that are left back in the office for sure. So y'all be patient if you have questions for Kara, Travis, or others. Okay, let's go back to the agenda, or PD. I think we're down to the PD section actually. So it's all yours, Deb.
Thank you. I was just trying to get ready, and I'm glad I put my headset on, because my dog in the background is snoring really, really loud. So hopefully you won't be able to hear that. We do have some things going on PD-wise, of course. Tomorrow is an event that we decided was necessary because of, although the academy stuff had been put on hiatus, it was waived for now. We do have a lot of folks going into the DL Academy trainings. We've asked Dr. Glenda Rose to do a 3-hour DL Academy 1 at Nuts and Bolts. It's 3 hours tomorrow, starting at 9 a.m. I was just looking at let me stop sharing the agenda, and I want to share the website. Let me go back to this screen and see if it'll let me share. Do you see the calendar here? The Train PD calendar?
Yes.
Okay, so it's in the portal. You register in the portal. It's through our new Zoom, so it goes up to 300 participants. We've currently got 72 in there. So there's still plenty of room for folks to join us. So if you've got some teachers new to distance learning and they're trying to work their way through the DL stuff online, we're finding a lot of folks are having some computer literacy issues. They're struggling because they don't really have the skills just yet to do those effectively. So we'll send an email out about that. But if you have some that are struggling or really new and not sure about the proxy hours and the direct contact hours, please have them join us tomorrow morning from 9 until noon online, and they can register here. We have a Manager Monday this coming Monday, and it's Bridging the Gap. Bridging the Data Analysis Gap. That currently has 69 people registered. So we still have 131 seats available for that. And our Teacher Tuesday, where we are now in AEL. This is one that we are doing, and we currently have 131 people registered. So there are 69 seats available. This is an event that we had so many people registered already, we didn't want to move it into Zoom, but I will have a Zoom room open. So if we have any overflow, just to let you know that. So that's available. And then let me go back to the agenda. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Our Workforce Wednesday will be retooling transitions to college to meet ELL student needs. Just one more item. The DL Symposium, as I'm sure you've surmised, has been postponed, but Lori and I are working on a possibility of sometime in mid to late May doing a couple of virtual sessions. So that is it for me. I'm looking in the chat pod. Paul, we've experienced some glitches with DL Module 3. The player in the portal would freeze. We've been trying to work with some folks on that, and we're finding that it might be some computer issues, because when we go in, we're able to move through it pretty quickly. But again, the computers that we have at A&M are updated. But we're working on those emails, Paul and others, every day. We've got 5 folks working the PD Portal email account, and they're working with your folks over the phone and through email. So please be patient as we work through those issues. And that's it for us at TCAL. Back to you, Anson.
Okay, I really appreciate everybody's feedback. I saw some questions come in here. Let me dig through here and see which ones I felt like we need to answer right now. They're all important. So Sherry Smith Dennis from McLennan College there. Will the FAQ have guidance on tracking contact hours for students without internet service on their cell phone? In other words, can they only be contacted by phone? I believe the current guidance already addresses that under remote and distance learning. If it's synchronous engagement with the instructor via a phone, those hours can be collected. So go back and consult the FAQ under remote and distance learning. Let's see here. Oh, Mahalia addressed that. Thank you, Mahalia, for getting that in there. You're tracking these things too.
Kimberly Nobles is asking, is it possible to get training hours from other online webinars that reference online teaching? I think that's just a question for the PD requirement. Is that what you're asking, Kimberly?
I think so.
Let's see what she says. Yes, that's what she's asking.
Anybody on my team? I don't know actually the rules on that. I should. respond
Lori,
to
I don't know
that
if you
question?
want to.
Maybe Lori will.
Sorry, yeah, she's just talking about, can they upload PD?
Yeah, so it's a local program decision is the way that we understand it from TWC. If you find some other training and it's external training outside of TCAL or TWC, you could upload any certificate that you get, and it's at the local program level that your program director has to approve it.
Correct.
Okay. I really appreciate all this. As we wind up here, this has been a great call. I've got like 2 pages of things to do, so never hesitate to give me things to work on because I like doing it for you guys. This is how we get our work done so well in Texas. I wanted to say a couple of things. One is a word of warning. Many of us, including right now, are using Zoom, and you have probably heard about Zoom bombing that is happening out there, where there are people that are hacking into Zoom meetings and creating a lot of disruption, posting profanity, posting pornography, posting other things. So if you're using Zoom, and I would say, I wouldn't say other platforms are immune to this, but start to look online for what you can do to be more secure and private with those applications. That's the last thing you want to have happen with students if you're using those applications. We had it happen in a public meeting with one of our commissioners, and it was extremely disruptive and embarrassing. And unfortunately, we live in a world like that, but that's happening now. So be cautious with Zoom. It's very easy in the internet world, age of the internet, to kind of get lulled into everything being safe, and it's not. There's people out there that want to do malicious things. The other thing I would say that I want to say, and this is another type of word to the wise or a little warning. Oftentimes when you're in an emergency phase of anything in your life, your first response is to protect others, protect what's happening, and that's good. We need to be that way, and that's how we're built as people. But I am seeing, and we have had some experiences of this, and it will happen to you, that individuals that are releasing private health information about other individuals when it comes to coronavirus. So, for example, out of an abundance of caution, it would be easy for one of your staff to say, "Oh my God, did you hear that this instructor's husband got coronavirus, or that she or he got coronavirus?" And you're probably doing that out of an abundance of caution. You're concerned, all of those things. But you've also outed an individual's private health information. And that's something that we don't want to be doing. And we all know that. When you think about it, you say, "Oh, of course, I would never do that." But I've seen it happen. It could happen with students in a class. It could happen with staff. It's happened, in my experience, it's happened this week. And it's a good reminder because we're reacting out of an emergency and we want to protect. But I asked myself the question, like, would we say the same thing about somebody that was diagnosed with AIDS or with cancer? Probably not, unless it was a very private conversation and we felt that was something we could talk about with an individual. But not publicly, and not definitely in larger groups, and not something without the consent of the individual. So think about those things. I can see it happening with teachers and students easily because everybody's, you build an environment with class and everybody's going through an experience. But I want to bring that up. We're going to post some information on privacy that we have related to this. But I wanted to send that reminder out. We all get trained on this. We do it through our standard processes, but we tend to not think about those things in emergencies. So any other questions come in as we're winding up here?
Just folks talking about the privacy issue and how they're handling it. someone, I think it was Lorraine, said her school, excuse me, said they couldn't use Zoom anymore. So, and for those of you who said that you didn't get a password with this one, if you go through the portal for a Zoom session, you won't be asked for it. And if you're given the link, I understand for Zoom, you won't be asked for it. But it's for someone who just goes trolling around on a Zoom. If it's a public meeting, they can just pop in. But I'm currently looking also for stuff, Anson, to share with everyone on Zoom and FERPA, because it's not just us, it's a international problem that people are looking for.
Absolutely.
How to deal with student PII stuff.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let me wind up. I appreciate the engagement, and with 200 and something people in the room here, it's nice that we have this kind of feedback. But for sure, we'll go through and look at the guidance in the chat here to make sure we didn't miss any questions and try to get them addressed. I want to thank you guys for the feedback today. Stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of information coming out in the next 48 hours, I think, from us that will help you move forward. And then next week, we'll learn even more. I want to send a reminder that we will be having a webinar on serving new students, another conference call webinar on the 15th. So make sure you get ready for that. Our goal is to send the guidance out and then let you digest it with your teams, digest it with your consortia, and then we can all regroup after the holidays. And if you're taking holiday, and come back on Wednesday for a conference call on the 15th on serving new students. And we'll send that reminder out to everybody also. I'm glad everybody got to see my kitchen cabinets with my Dr. Seuss stickers on them that showed up there a few years ago and they've never left. So that's how we roll here. I appreciate your feedback, and we'll be signing off. So thank you and enjoy the time here. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Anson. Elena, was there anyone else you're missing on your roll call before I close the room?
Everyone signed in, so thank you.
All right.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Anson.
Thank you.
Everybody take care.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.